On her deathbed, my mother looked at me and said, "You turned out so much better than I expected." I was 14 when the FBI first tried to take my fingerprints. It was at a Boy Scout jamboree. They had a table set up. You could ink your fingers, fill out a card. They would send it to Washington. And when it came my turn, I said, "No, thank you." And the agent said, "What, are you considering a life of crime?" "I'm keeping my options open." Crime is not rocket science. I didn't think it was my job to make their job easier. And I knew rocket science. In 6th grade, I had said I wanted to be the next Wernher von Braun, head of the US space program. And the school had put me on the geek track. I was one of the original rocket boys. We had free run of the lab. We built rockets. We launched them in the football field. And like other scientists in the space program, we looked for other uses for our discoveries. And we had discovered that if you mix solid rocket fuel while it was still wet and put it in a piece of toilet paper, you had a weapons-grade spitball. You would throw that down on the floor, boom, windows would rattle. And of course, we wanted to share our discovery with the world, so we drove down to the beach and went around and put spitballs under the tires of different cars. Jocks we didn't like, girls we had crushes on, cars that we thought were ugly. And then we lay on our towels, and all afternoon, boom, boom. I swear one VW levitated. At the end of the day, I walked back to my car, and there was a policeman by the car. And he said, "Come over here, assume the position." And under the wheel of my car, some spitballs. One of my friends had done my car. And I tried to use it as an alibi. Hey, why would I do this to my own car? The cop pointed in the back seat of my car. There was a shoebox full of atomic spitballs. I was toast. But a crowd had gathered, and he started to talk to the crowd. He said, "You may have read stories in the paper recently in New York. There are a form of Chinese firecracker called snapdragons, tiny little colorful beads that you throw on the sidewalk and they go poof." And kids had mistaken them for candy and swallowed them and had to be rushed to the hospital. And I'm thinking, no one puts a spitball in their mouth. And if they do, they get what they deserve. But the cop starts playing to the audience, and he says, "Here, I'll show you." And he takes the spitballs and stomps on them. Boom! Smoke curls out from under his shoe, and the look on his face, yes! In that moment, I discovered irony. And I gave up science and founded the Irony Club. Like-minded friends, we would go around town and make random acts of social commentary. For example, there was a country club on the north side of town that had a water tower. And for decades, students had gone up and declared their love, cheered their team, confirmed, celebrated their existence, and the country club had it repainted. And we woke up, and that tower was pristine silver, like it was giving us the finger. I convened the Irony Club. We had black turtlenecks, watch caps. We've got hamburgers for the guard dog from the drive-thru. We took our paint, we climbed the tower, and created a masterpiece. Down with vandalism. Later that night, someone climbed the tower and painted Class of '66, because the next morning the principal came on the PA system and said, "Okay, Class of '66, Weber Country Club has just submitted a bill for $600 to repaint the water tower. It will come out of your prom fund." We could not let this stand. We reconvened. We bought more paint, more hamburgers. We drove, climbed to the top of the tower, and went to work. 4 police cars arrived, spotlights, bullhorns, the works. We finished, we climbed down. They took us to the station, called our parents. They couldn't press charges until the next morning. They had to wait to assess the damage. So they called at 6:30 in the morning, they called the president of the country club, and he looked out the window, and he says, "There's no damage. It's pristine. It's back to silver." We had repainted it. No charges. We walked. In college, my mom got a job working for the FBI. And one day she called and said, "Jim, can you tell me why your name is on a list of 159 Trinity College students that I am sending to the Bureau in Washington?" 2 weeks earlier, Martin Luther King had been assassinated. And the names on that list had taken over the administration building of Trinity College, held the trustees captive, and demanded that Lily White, Trinity College, set aside money for minority scholarships in the name of Dr. King. And I said, "Mom, I'm trying to be one of the good guys."